Okay, so today we are going to do just a few factoring trinomial problems as review. Then we're going to go through and factor special binomials. And like I said before, that lesson is pretty quick. So hopefully you guys will have at least 40 minutes to work on the quizzes that you should have done. So by the end of this period, you should have 3 quizzes done. I'll just write them at the top so you can see. You should have 1, 2, 1, 3, and 1, 4. I'm going to pull grades for those tonight and enter those into your grade book, and I'll remind you of that when I see you on Thursday. I'll remind you to get in and check your grade book. Okay, so let's start with factoring 92, finding all of the factors of 92. I'll start you with the first. It's always 1 in the number, so 1 in 92. That's going to be our first task. Remember, you check 2, you check 3. You might need to use your Chromebook to do the dividing. Give you about a minute. I'm going to look at our roll, and then I'll walk around and see where you guys are at. Either write it in your notebook or write it on one of your whiteboards, like your desktop or your whiteboard. Got about 30. I'll come through and see where you're at. We didn't do 1, 2. We skipped it. So 1, 1, 1, 3, and 1, 4. Good question. Looking good. Thank you to those of you that are actually checking factors. Down. About 20. So I didn't do it for you guys because I wanted to walk around and just see how you were doing. But last class period, I did go through and check all the factors. So I believe it is 2 and 46 and 4 and 23. And those are it. So what I meant by what I did last time was I really went through and checked 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I did go all the way to 23. So there are times where you have to check quite a few things before you know that you factored the whole thing. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do as like a warm-up is factor this trinomial. So I know that this process is really tedious, and I know that a lot of you don't need it. Like I can tell after last time, just seeing how many of you guys were already done. I know that lots of you guys don't need to list out the factors, but at least the one advantage is you very rarely get your questions wrong if you do it the long way. So I would encourage you to do this the long way by listing out all of the factors of 12, but you are welcome to do it the way that you prefer. So I'm going to freeze my screen. I'm going to write down mine, and then I'm going to come walk around to see how you guys are doing. go about 30 seconds. About 10. Okay, so I'll unfreeze mine, and then just to give you guys a little bit of a review of last time, this plus sign here tells you to add all of your factors. I ended up getting an 8, which was not quite right. I needed a -8, not a +8. So this triangle here means I had to change these two numbers to the opposite. So instead of a +2 and a +6, they both needed to be negative. So your factors were x minus 2 and x minus 6. It looks like most of you guys were on the right track on that one. Okay, next up is x squared plus 9x minus 36. I'll set mine up the same way, and then I'll walk around to see how you're doing. Pretty good. Looks like we need about 30 more seconds. $20. $10. About 5. 3. Okay, on this one, it was the same thing. I needed to change my signs because I subtracted them and got a -9, not a +9, which means I need to change all of them. So if I change this to positive, this becomes negative, and this becomes positive. So I ended up getting x minus 3x plus 12. Okay, our last one is this one, x squared plus 13x plus 42. That'll be our last warm-up one. got 20. 10. 5. 3. 2. Okay, so this one was 6 and 7. You didn't need to change anything. So this is what we did last time we factored trinomials. Just to do a brief look at where we've been before we start on the new stuff. You guys started with factoring GCF. So that was page 6. True? Yeah. So you just take one number out of all the terms, and then we skipped factoring by grouping. So that's why on our notebook I said I'm going to pull these 3 quizzes today. 1, 2 is missing because we didn't do factoring by grouping. Then last time we factored trinomials. Today we're factoring special binomials. We're factoring special binomials. So last time we had trinomials, and what that meant was you're factoring something that has 3 terms. Today, binomials means we're only going to have 2 terms on all of these. The reason that these are special is because they are based off of these perfect squares that you have on the pink card that I brought you. So if you're a distance learner, I've uploaded this as a PDF that you can either just refer to or print off if you'd like it. But these are all of our perfect square numbers. So here's how you read this table. X squared is a perfect square because you multiplied x times x to get it. So x squared is your perfect square. If you take the root of it, you get x. Same with x to the 4th. The root of that is x squared. And then the next one should look very familiar to you. So like, let's jump to 4. 4 is a perfect square because if you root it, you get a 2. So 2 times 2 gives you 4. 3 times 3 gives you 9. 4 times 4 gives you 16, and so on. So these are all perfect square numbers because we just took one number and multiplied it by itself. So the pattern continues for quite a while. The next one would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then from there, you need to get into your calculator and you're actually going to need to root those. Just as a reminder, I'll show you on my screen. I think the best calculator to use is Desmos. So if I needed a calculator, I would go to desmos.com, desmos.com. Up at the top here, you have this Math Tools. It's in the center. Choose the scientific calculator. Then to get your root, it's down here in your main functions. So you would just hit root, type in 256, and that gives you 16. Desmos will do all of the calculating, everything that we need for this year. Desmos will do it. If you have a different one that you prefer or an actual calculator, that's fine. I'm just showing you this one. So you're going through and finding the last 6. Looking good. Let's go about 20 more seconds. I'm going to call on some of you guys to tell me what you got. Got about 10. Okay, Elijah, what did you get for 625? 25. Yep. Ashley, what did you get for 1296? 36? Yeah. Chase, what did you get for 2401? 49. Great. Damien, what did you get for 4096? Excellent. Nayeli, what did you get for 6561? And then this last one is 100. So this is yours to keep, and this is going to be your cheat sheet for the day. This is going to make it so that when you go through and factor these binomials, it's going to be pretty quick. So one last preview before we get started is, notice that all of them on this top part of your worksheet are x squareds. So all of these top ones have an x squared. And last time, these ones also all had an x squared. So that means that your factors are going to look like they looked last time. You're going to have two binomials. So they're going to look like this. So that means over here, I could just write that down if I wanted to. I know that these two things are going to, this x squared minus 49 is going to turn into these two binomials. So I already previewed this for you. The reason these are special binomials is because they all include roots. So all you have to do to factor these is take the root of the first term and the root of the second term. You don't include your symbol, you just include the number. So then we could go to our pink sheet if we wanted to. X squared has a root of x, and because this is in the first position, that's where you put it in your answer. So you put x in the first position down here. Then root of 49 is 7, so you put that in the second position. And then on all of your special binomials today, every single one, your symbols are plus and minus. So the factors of the special binomial x squared minus 49 are equal to x plus 7, x minus 7. Now I'm going to show you why this works. You do not have to write this down if you don't want to, and this is not part of the answer. I just want to show you that if you multiply it out, it does work. So you would end up getting x squared minus 7x plus 7x minus 49. These two middle terms would cancel out because a plus 7 and a minus 7 go to 0. And you would be left with x squared minus 49. So if you double distributed out those two binomials, you would end up getting this special one. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay, example 2 is almost exactly the same. The only difference is now you have a number in your first term as well as a letter, but nothing changes. The process that you use does not change. You are going to root the first and the last term. Make sure you don't include that minus. Then I can go to I'm going to set up my binomials. And I could write plus and minus right now if I wanted to, because I know that that's going to be the same for all of these. So root of 64 is 8. And then root of x squared is x. So this time our first term is 8x. Root of 100 is 10, so our second term is 10. So these factors are 8x minus 10 8x plus 10. Once again, I'll multiply it out, but you do not need to do this part, especially if it confuses you. If I multiplied this out, these 80x in the middle, I have a minus 80x and a plus 80x, those are going to simplify. And we'd end up getting 64x squared minus 100. So we only have one other kind that we need to look at. So this time, what is the difference? How is this one different than example 1 and example 2? What is it? Look at them. Just look at these things that we factored. What is the difference between these two and this one? It's a positive. This guy now, all of a sudden, we have a plus sign instead of a minus sign. So process is the same. We root both terms. We're going to root both terms. I'm going to end up having two binomials. And I told you before we even started the first one that I'm going to have a plus and a minus in all of my answers for today's lesson. The root of the first term, root of 9 is going to be 3. Root of x squared is x. We put that in both of the first position. Root of 16 is 4. Well, now, like I've done on all of the other ones, I'm going to multiply this out so that you guys can see what happens. And I want you guys to tell me if you can see the issue. Can any of you guys see what is wrong with what I have? So I cancel out these two middle terms, right? And I end up getting 9x squared minus 16. Is that what I'm supposed to get? No. Like, look over here on these ones. I had a minus 49 to begin with, and I had a minus 49 after I multiplied it out. Minus 100, same thing. But here, all of a sudden, I have a plus sign, and down here I have a minus sign. So the way to fix that, because we did do the process right, the way to fix that down here we have a minus instead of a plus, we need to put an imaginary number on 4. So we need to put I. I stands for an imaginary number. We have to put that on there because we know positive 4 and negative 4 don't equal positive 16. So we need an imaginary number to help us out. So on all of the ones that have a plus sign, everything is the exact same except for your second term has to have an imaginary number on it. Now for some of you guys, you don't need to know this next part, but I want to show it to you so that you understand why this works. So if this makes no sense to you, that's okay. It doesn't need to for you to be able to be successful on the quiz. So if I multiply these out, this is what I get. It's going to look kind of weird. I end up getting 9x squared minus 12xi plus 12xi. Those are going to go away, just like it did in all the other problems. And now what I have is a 9x squared minus 16i squared. Does anybody remember what I squared equals? It's okay if you don't. -1, excellent. I squared equals -1, and that's how it changes back to the positive. That ends up becoming 9x squared plus 16. You won't be tested on that. I'll never ask you to do that on a quiz. I just want you guys to see that it's not just us putting an eye on and going, okay, now it works because we put this imaginary number on. I want you to know why it works, even though I'm not going to make you do that on any of your homework or quizzes. Do you want me to leave it up for a second so you can copy it if you want? Okay, I'll leave it up for like 15. About 10. Three. Okay, so I'm gonna let you try 1 through 9, but I would recommend that you go through and you highlight or mark or circle all of the ones that have a plus sign to hopefully jog your memory that those ones require you to put an I on the end. I think there's only 3 of them. All the other ones, you just have to go through and find out what goes in your binomials. This is all you write as an answer. You do not have to write the multiplication that I did underneath. That was just me showing you why it works. So these are your answers. You do not have to do this bottom part where I multiplied them back out. I'll do mine on my paper and then I'll come around to see how far you guys are. So you're just going up to 9. You can stop once you get to 9. Great. Looks like most of you guys are already done. About 10 seconds and we'll go over them. About 5? Okay, so I'm just going to go through and tell you the two numbers that you should have. The first one, you should have an X and an 11. 2, 6, and 5i. 3, you have a 4x and a 1. Make sure that you have that 1 there. 4, 7x and 3i. 5, 2x and 9. 6, x and 8i. 7, 5x and 7. 8 is x and 4, and 9 is 10x and 13. So that's going to be a big part of your quiz. Now, down here at the bottom, you have what I call extra special binomials. So what is different about those guys at the bottom? They're to the 4th power instead of to the 2nd power. Which means that when you go to multiply these out, when you go to factor them out, you're going to end up with 4 binomials instead of just 2. So up here, you have a squared, and that turned into 2 binomials. Down here, you have the 4th power, so that turns into 1, 2, 3, 4 binomials. They're going to be a plus minus and a plus minus. So let's see how this happens. Process is the same. You take the root of the first term and the root of the second, except for the second should be 10,000, not 1,000. Make sure you fill in that 0. Okay, if you take the root of these, you get root of 81 is 9. Root of x to the 4th is on your pink paper. It is x squared. So we have 9x squared plus minus root of 10,000 is 100. I'm going to space that out a little bit because I didn't write big enough. And now I'm hoping that what you see is that you have 2 more special binomials. So these will factor 1 more time. So 9x squared goes to 3x. 100 goes to 10. But that was a plus. So we have to make sure that we put the I on the 10. Then it's the same for the second one. 9x squared goes to 3x. Root of 100 goes to 10. Then I'm just going to mark it a little bit, hopefully, to make it slightly clearer. So this one turned into these 2. And this one turned into these 2. This bottom one is your final answer. If it asks you to factor one that's x to the 4th, you don't put in these 2 binomials. You go all the way down to the 4 that's your final answer. Are you okay with that? Okay, you try 2 and 3, and then you'll have the rest of the period to work on your quizzes. So you try 2 and 3. We'll check in with each other. And then you'll have the rest of the period to do quizzes. Okay, I'll come through to see how you're doing. It looks like we need about 30 more seconds. We still have people doing that very last one. About 20. About 10. 5. 2. Okay, so our first one, or actually number 2, should turn into 5x and 7. Make sure that on one set you have a 7i. Then your third one turns into an x and a 4. You have to have i's on 2 of them. So remember, when you go to take this quiz, if it asks you to factor one that has an x to the 4th, this is your answer. It's these 4 binomials. You don't enter in this top one that has the x squareds on it. Do you feel okay about this? Okay, so remember that tonight I'm going to pull scores for the 3 quizzes that you have in Canvas. If you need help, just raise your hand and I'll come over and help you in any way I can. I'm happy to help. Okay.